What's up, everybody? We are back. How's everybody doing? I'm excited. We're talking about a lot of cool things today. Can you guys hear me okay? Let's get a little closer. There we go. What's happening, everybody? Welcome back, everyone, to the Longevity Game podcast. All right. Welcome back, everybody. We are going to have a great episode today. I'm Michael, your guide through the world of hormone optimization, performance medicine, peptides, and longevity science. Every week, we look at the breakthroughs that shape the future of human health. And today, we're diving into major headlines that dropped this week. And those topics, we're going to talk about some things that I think that are going to really blow your mind. The first thing we're going to talk about is women's health and new hormone therapy data. We got some new data out, finally. Updates from an FDA panel about testosterone access. We're going to talk about some new obesity drug results, including the wildly impressive retatrutide study. And what's happening in the peptide world, including some concerns about online clinics who are selling experimental peptides without proper medical oversight. This is really important. I can't tell you how many thousands of comments or questions that I get on my TikTok page when it comes to peptides, and everybody's buying peptides online. And, I understand it's hard to find people with the expertise to prescribe peptides, and it's even more difficult to find a person who can prescribe peptides and find a compounding pharmacy that also provides those said peptides, right? So there are a lot of people that buy peptides online, and I have to say, most of those things are junk. And I can attest to that, and then I'll tell you why. We have so many patients that I see around Texas and even Nebraska, and people will come in, or they'll hit me up on via telemed, and they'll say, "Yeah, well, I've tried this peptide and I haven't seen any results," and I say, "Well, where did you get the peptide?" And they'll tell me some random, online peptide retailer that's for non-human purposes, not only, medical research only, that kind of thing, not for human consumption. And so I actually put them on the real thing prescribed to a pharmacy, and they see huge results, and that's what you get. I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to sue these, online peptide retailers for not giving you or providing you, properly dosed peptides, or even peptides that have what they're supposed to have in them. I mean, you're not supposed to be taking them anyway, according to their websites, right? If you go to any FAQ page on any of these peptide sites, it says not for human consumption, for research only, right? And we know what this is all about. It's all just legalese to mitigate the risk from them selling online peptides to people to use, which are prescription, by the way. These are prescription medications that people are buying online. So when people ask, which place should I buy them from? Well, it's unethical for me to suggest you purchase any prescription medication online. And anyway, so we're going to talk about that. That's a little rant. I'm sorry. I get a little bit of I have a soapbox when it comes to buying, peptides from online retailers. Oh, yeah. It's not good. It's not a good idea. It's really a waste of money. And so, and let's see, what else? What else we're going to... Oh, yeah, we're also going to add we have a new weekly segment that I'm really excited about. It's called the Longevity Spotlight. And this is a short, powerful highlight on something that you can start thinking about right now to live longer and live better. All right, so let's get into it.
Bruh.
So, our first segment, we're going to talk about women's health. menopause and hormone replacement therapy update. You know, women's hormone health is like finally getting the national attention that it deserves. For too long, women have been just putting up with, being told, you just got to live with it. This is just what menopause is. Well, this week we saw several major updates in hormone replacement therapy, or the HRT space, including new data that shows differences in risk between oral estrogen and especially in transdermal estrogen in women especially with women in metabolic issues like diabetes. All right. I've been at least for the past 5 years, I've been talking about the importance of transdermal estradiol over oral estradiol. They're both bioidentical estradiol. However, there's more risk with one and no risk with the other. At least that's what we're seeing. So let's talk about that. Oral versus transdermal HRT risk differences. So there was a new analysis published this week, and it highlighted that oral estradiol can increase cardiovascular strain in certain women because it travels through the liver first and affects clotting and inflammatory pathways. All right. However, transdermal estrogen, whether that's patches or gels or creams, it bypasses the liver. And so this leads to less impact on the triglycerides. You have a lower clotting risk, like very, very, very 0.0, very low clotting risk versus the oral. There's a little bit more of a clotting risk. You have more stable estradiol levels and just overall metabolic support, For women with diabetes, insulin resistance or higher BMI, or even those that are struggling with weight changes in menopause, like many, many women, these findings really matter, because menopause isn't just hot flashes. You know what I'm saying? Like declining. I have this conversation so often. I feel like I can, I can just go on and on with this stuff. But, you have to worry. Like menopause is all about, you have a declining metabolic rate. So you're going to gain weight faster, or you're going to have a difficult time losing weight. You're going to have a loss of lean muscle, right? You're going to have increased visceral fat. And this comes from having no estradiol. If you don't make estradiol, you're going to have a increased accumulation of visceral and midsection abdominal fat. This is the same for men. And this is another reason why you never want to crash a man's estrogen. I mean, there's lots of reasons that you shouldn't put a man on an estrogen blocker just because he's on testosterone. Anyway, also, there's going to be higher inflammation. You're going to have sleep disruption. That's a big one, man. In menopause, women have so many issues they have to contend with, and sleep optimization is one of the big ones. It's really rough, having low estradiol and progesterone, it can really cause you to sleep terribly. And for the ladies out here listening, I don't have to tell you, right? And also, you have diminished mitochondrial efficiency, which is really everybody. As we age, we're just not cranking out, the best amounts of ATP, right? That's the energy currency that's produced by mitochondria. And instead, we have mitochondrial inefficiency, and we have all this, reactive oxygen species and metabolic disruption from all this oxidative stress from these, really bad ill performing mitochondria. And it just gets worse as we age, right? And I've talked about this a lot last episode, I think I talked about it because we were talking about two mitochondrial peptides, MOTS-C and SS31. And these are the non-sexy peptides, if you can remember me talking about that. Well, anyway, when you combine all these things with oral estrogen in someone who's already metabolically stressed, the cardiovascular system really gets pushed hard, So the message really is simple. The route of administration, it matters. Transdermal estradiol continues to look like the gold standard for safety. All right. And so that if you're a female and you're on oral estradiol or oral estrogen, it needs to be estradiol, for one. That's the bioidentical form of estrogen, estradiol. And ask your provider for transdermal. That's the key here. All right. You want transdermal patches are the best, in my opinion. I'm not really a fan of creams, just like testosterone cream. I'm just not a fan. Everybody has different skin types, and that stuff is the creams or the gels. I don't know. They're just a little messy. I don't prefer those. However, there are some women that I have in my clinic that do continue to take the orals, and we talk about that. We discuss the risks, and they understand the risks, and we're just, more vigilant, and we always keep that in the back of our mind. Hey, these are estrogen pills, and so anyway, we always, like I said, we try to maintain vigilance. But some women, and as well as men who are on injectables versus creams or gels, may prefer the oral or the injectable because maybe they work out a lot. Maybe they do things that they're sweating a lot, or maybe they have, skin sensitivities and that kind of thing. So there are instances where, it may call for the estradiol pills or capsules versus the transdermals. And that's, it is what it is. Like I said, you just got to maintain vigilance and be sure to just follow up with your provider, your clinician, as frequently as they need you to. All right. Number 2, HRT combined with GLP-1s has shown a bigger weight loss effect, which is pretty cool. So this is a study that was presented at Endo, and it showed that postmenopausal women on hormone replacement therapy lost more weight when combined with tirzepatide than on tirzepatide all by itself. And so this tells us something really important, right? Hormone replacement isn't just symptom control. It's metabolic support, right? And here's why. So estradiol regulates insulin sensitivity. Progesterone impacts sleep and cortisol. Testosterone helps maintain lean mass and confidence and motivation and energy, right? And then hormones overall regulate mitochondrial function. And so, when you optimize hormones, weight loss medications work better, workouts feel easier, recovery improves, and you get stronger faster. It's amazing. This is great. These are great findings. If it sounds like I'm trying to sell you ladies on getting on hormone support in menopause, I am. It's going to change your life, right? It really will. And the sooner, the better, right? Okay, so number 3, the myth that HRT is dangerous continues to just fall apart, right? As more data emerges, correcting the old interpretations of the Women's Health Initiative study that we've talked about a lot, we're seeing a shift in public understanding, right? Bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, when properly dosed, when properly monitored, and when individualized, reduces the risk and supports bone health, brain health, heart health, metabolic health, sexual wellness, and really overall quality of life. So I like this. I like where we're going, because women deserve better than the grin and bear it approach, that I feel like that's the line they've been fed, for the past, how many decades now, and fortunately the science is finally catching up, so yeah, I'm really excited about that. That's, I'm really excited about that, and I have to say there are a lot of women that I take care of that have just seen dramatic improvements in their quality of life because we had the discussion, Anyway, so let's switch gears. We're going to go to segment number 2. FDA panel recommends easier access to testosterone. This is really cool. So this week, a major FDA advisory panel recommended that the loosening of restrictions around prescription testosterone therapy for men. Not ladies, I'm sorry. Not yet. Okay. But your time is coming. All right. I promise. They're arguing that the current rules are outdated and unnecessarily restrictive. And this is huge for men's health. Okay. And so for years, guys, you know what I'm talking about. For years, TRT has been limited mostly to men with primary testicular failure. But, and I don't have to tell many of you guys, millions of men experience age-related testosterone decline, metabolic dysfunction, elevated visceral body fat, or visceral fat, low energy, low libido, symptoms that are consistent with depression and brain fog. All these things, men experience these things and we're seeing more and more people of younger age that are experiencing these things. But yet they could not access therapy unless their levels dropped below an arbitrarily low threshold. And I say arbitrary because, everybody is different. I've seen guys come into the clinic, and we test their hormone levels when we do a pretty robust lab panel. And, some men, their testosterone's 400 and they feel great. Some men have testosterone levels of 400 and feel absolutely god-awful, right? And I'd be interested to see receptor activity. I wish there was a way that we could check receptors, because you have your testosterone, and then you have androgen receptors that accept the testosterone, and then the good things happen, right? Well, some people have maybe androgen receptor resistance. You have like insulin resistance. The receptors, maybe they just they require a more robust amount of testosterone to actually activate those. This is why I think that you see, at least one of the reasons why you see more anabolic effects in some people at lower levels than other people that require higher levels. It's very interesting. I wish there was a way that we could test that. I haven't seen that yet. But anyway, the panel stated that something like clinicians like me have been arguing for years. Men with symptomatic low testosterone, even age-related, deserve access to treatment. And that's it. We have an ADAM questionnaire that I like to use at my clinic. It stands for androgen deficiency in the adult male. And it's a 10-part kind of like a survey. It asks 10 questions about symptomatic or symptoms that men are experiencing. They go through the survey, and it gives us an idea. There's two things that it does. It helps me to see kind of what their symptoms are, and for the person taking the survey, it allows them to see that, man, there are more symptoms involved in low testosterone than I even expected, and I am having some of these symptoms. And I didn't relate that to low testosterone, and so then we can see, okay, well, they have a lot of symptoms that seem consistent with low testosterone. Then we can dive in, and so a lot of those things are the things that I just mentioned back there about all the things: metabolic dysfunction, elevated visceral fat, low energy, poor libido, depression, brain fog, that kind of thing. And so this shift is really cool because it signals a broader definition of hypogonadism. Is on the horizon. It's coming. Things are moving, which is awesome. And more men hopefully will become more eligible for TRT. Insurance guidelines may change, although I doubt it. I'm not a big fan of insurance for lots of reasons, but that's another story. That's another topic. Also, TRT may become more understood as maybe a metabolic medicine, not just performance enhancement, And so this is a win for men's health, and so men age too, and hormones matter just as much as for men as for women. All right. So this is really cool. So guys, be on the lookout. There may be some softening of restrictions. So that's cool, and so, yeah. All right. So, next, as we cruise through, let's talk about, major weight loss drug breakthroughs, that we've come across this week. This retatrutide study was really, really cool. I have talked about retatrutide in the past. It's probably one of the best weight loss medications of all time. I've seen incredible results on this medication in a number of people. And so retatrutide, okay, so let's back it up. First, there was semaglutide, right? Well, there was liraglutide. We've had GLP-1s for a long time now. But once semaglutide was approved for weight loss, because we started seeing lots of, great results in weight loss. People were losing lots of weight on the semaglutide. And it worked on GLP-1 receptors. Fast forward a couple years, then tirzepatide came out. It was first Mounjaro, then it was Zepbound when it was FDA approved for weight loss. And you saw more weight loss with the tirzepatide, like a lot more, and less side effects. And it had a GLP-1 receptor pathway, and it had a GIP receptor pathway. So it opened up 2 different metabolic pathways to allow you to lose weight. Now, retatrutide opens up 3 different metabolic pathways, including a glucagon pathway. So those previous 2 plus the glucagon pathway. And it has been absolutely incredible. The amount of weight loss on this thing, on this medication, is absolutely incredible. It's the biggest weight loss numbers ever seen in any medication. And the biggest headline this week in weight loss science was from Eli Lilly. All right, so retatrutide, the triple agonist hitting, like I said, GLP-1, GIP, and glucagon, delivered 28.7% of weight loss in phase 3 clinical trials. And that is the highest clinically documented weight loss effect ever seen in any medication ever. All right, to put it bluntly, this is approaching bariatric surgery level outcomes without surgery, right? So, I mean, I think the bariatric level surgery outcomes are like 30%. So we're so close, right, to achieving that without the surgery, right? Because surgery involves risks, lots of risks, infection, death even, and then it also can cause, lots of metabolic dysfunction later on down the road after surgery. And I've seen a lot of those people come into the ICU, in really bad shape. So this is pretty cool. What's even more fascinating is the trial wasn't strictly obesity focused. It was in patients with knee osteoarthritis, and weight loss significantly reduced pain and improved joint function. And so this confirms something that we already knew, like, inflammation, metabolic health, and musculoskeletal health, or musculoskeletal pain, are deeply connected. Obviously, if you lose a lot of weight and you have osteoarthritis, you're not going to feel the amount of force and pressure and stress on those joints that you do at those higher weights, So I know it sounds like duh, but it's still to see it in clinical studies, and the people who actually took the survey showed just remarkable, profound improvement in their osteoarthritis pain in their knees. So really great, really cool. So next, Zealand Pharma announces a new obesity drug pipeline. So this is pretty wild. Zealand Pharma announced 5 new metabolic drugs, and these drugs are designed specifically for long-term healthy weight maintenance, not just rapid weight loss. All right. So, this kind of signals where the industry's going, right? More options, right? More mechanisms, fewer side effects, and greater personalization, because it's not a one size fits all, right? I have people that come into my clinic and they're like, I don't eat a whole lot, and I just can't lose weight. Well, probably an appetite suppressant isn't the right option for you. Maybe we need a metabolic option, something that's going to just improve metabolism. And so this is cool. GLP-1s changed the world, but they're just chapter 1. You know what I mean? So that's pretty cool. Let's see what else. RNA-based fat loss therapies are emerging, right? So Wave Life Sciences released data on an RNA interference therapy, and this targets fat storage pathways. All right, so this is a totally different approach. All right, no hormones, no appetite changes. Instead, it tells your fat cells to behave differently. That's wild, right? We're moving toward precision metabolic engineering, right? Not just appetite control. And so that's really cool. All right, guys. So we're going to move forward. For all my friends who are really into peptides, I always like to do a peptide segment. So let's. This is a peptide world update and a warning. All right. Peptides just continue to explode in popularity, and they're becoming more and more mainstream, which is awesome because they're really great. We have like over 400 peptides used in research and clinical research and in practice. And so, but this week, The Guardian published an investigation showing that there are some online clinics letting people add experimental peptides to their online cart before any medical review at all. Like before talking to any clinician at all, they're just able to add it to their cart and then hit buy. Is that wild? This is dangerous for several reasons, actually. So most peptides are not FDA approved, right? Dosing and purity are inconsistent. Sometimes some peptides interact with medications. And if you're on medications and you don't talk to somebody who is in the know, like, a clinician that specializes in peptides, it's very likely that you can take a peptide that can interact with a medication that you may be taking, right? Some can worsen cancer risk if misused, right? If you take a peptide, it doesn't mean you're going to get cancer, all right? But if you take a peptide, that, for long periods of time, for, super therapeutic doses, and I'm only talking about specific peptides, concerning would be, any of the growth hormone secretagogues, or maybe any peptide that increases VEGF expression, which means it creates more blood vessels, angiogenesis, right? If you take those at too high doses for way too long, and you have a cancer risk, that's already, that can be pretty risky, right? And so, patients may think natural means safe. Well, it, you can drink water too fast and it'll kill you because it'll cause, electrolyte imbalances, and you won't depolarize, your heart stops, right? I've actually watched I was listening to a radio broadcast. Well, this is a little sidebar. I was watching a radio broadcast one time, and they were having a contest, like how fast somebody could drink a gallon of water on the air. And this guy drank a whole gallon of water, like quick, like within 30 seconds. Like he just opened up some people have this ability. My cousin, Willie, has this ability where he can just kind of open up his throat and he can just drink something and it's gone. Just like that. It just goes down to his stomach, right? And this guy did that with water, a gallon of water. And while he was on the radio show, he died. His heart stopped because there was no depolarization, because his potassium levels dropped so fast, sodium levels, potassium levels dropped so fast because, he took on so much water and it flooded his circulatory system so quickly that he died. Right. So even water can kill you if you drink too much of it too fast, So, we really got to be safe about this. So let me be clear. Peptides can be incredible tools when used responsibly, right? BPC 157, TB 500, ipamorelin, CJC 1295, GHKCU. These peptides, you need to talk to people about these, before you start taking them. Right. You need to talk to somebody who knows what they're talking about and that can evaluate you and make sure that you're not a bad candidate for these particular peptides, because if you take them wrong and you have risk factors, it can cause some bad stuff that you're going to have to go through some things that you could have otherwise not had to, contend with. So anyway, the takeaway, peptides are powerful. Treat them like medicine, not like supplements. Okay, they're not supplements. All right. That was I love peptides, all right, everybody. I don't want to be, the bearer of bad news, right? But, it is what it is. I care about you. I care about your safety. I care about your health. This is why I do this. This is why I founded Next Level TRT. I want to do this correctly and take care of you guys the right way, right? So Anyway, let's go. Here's our weekly longevity spotlight. I told you this week we're going to do something different. We're going to start a weekly longevity spotlight. It's not going to, it's just a little piece, right? So the topic this week is going to be your mitochondria decide how fast you age. All right. So this is super important. I've said it before. Mitochondrial peptides they're not sexy, right? But your mitochondria are these are the prime levers for aging, right? And so welcome to this week's Longevity Spotlight, where we take one simple idea and we break it down so that you can understand how it affects your lifespan and your health span. You know, your lifespan is how long you live. Your health span is the amount of health, your health level, I guess, in that lifespan, right? So today's focus, we're talking about mitochondria, right? These are the energy factories of your cells. They make the cellular currency, ATP, adenosine triphosphate, the energy molecule, all right? So as you age, mitochondria become less efficient. They become inefficient. They produce way more inflammation. They generate fewer antioxidants and signal your cells to slow down repair processes. But here's the exciting part, right? Mitochondria are trainable, okay? You can literally upgrade your mitochondria, okay? And here's how, all right? So pay attention. Pay very close attention. Here's how you increase mitochondrial health, mitochondrial efficiency. This is how you upgrade your mitochondria, okay? So first, zone 2 cardiovascular fitness or exercise. Zone 2 cardio is I know we've talked about this maybe briefly. Zone 2 cardio is the type of exercise where you train according to your heart rate. There's heart zones, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And zone 2 is the heart rate zone which your body actually preferentially pulls from fat to burn as energy. And so you're going to burn more fat in zone 2. And how do you calculate your zone 2? You take the number 220 and you subtract your age. And then you multiply that number by two different numbers. You multiply that number first by 0.6 and then again by 0.8. And that is your zone 2 parameter, your minimum and your maximum. And you want to train within zone 2, the minimum and the maximum. So how do you upgrade your mitochondria? Zone 2 cardio improves mitochondrial density and efficiency. Also, resistance training. Weight resistance training stimulates mitochondrial biogenesis, right? So you're going to produce more mitochondria. Also, cold exposure boosts mitochondrial uncoupling in brown fat. All right, brown fat is the bad fat, right? It's the inflammatory fat, right? So peptides like MOTS-C support metabolic signaling and mitochondrial resilience. Peptides like SS31 support mitochondrial structural integrity, like because it causes cardiolipin binding, and it just builds structural integrity of the mitochondria, and does a lot of other things. But that's the big piece in upgrading your mitochondria, right? And then hormone optimization, estradiol, testosterone, growth hormone, all regulate mitochondrial health. I don't suggest taking growth hormone, human growth hormone, but you can take peptides that boost your growth hormone production. And that way you still have sandostatin in place, which pumps the brakes on growth hormone production if it gets too high for too long. So it's a safer option. So longer life begins at the cellular level, and your mitochondria are ground zero, friends. Okay, so that's it. That's the Longevity Spotlight. I hope that you like that. Yeah, okay, great. Anyway, let's go real quick to longevity science and news. 2 new research papers this week caught my attention. Epigenetic clock modulation is one of them. So new computational models show that combinations of small molecules that may reset epigenetic aging markers. All right. Moving closer to the, like the cellular reprogramming concepts that you've heard associated with the Yamanaka factors that we've talked about, I think 2 episodes ago, maybe. If you don't remember what the Yamanaka factors are, these are 4 factors that when activated together, they tell an adult cell, like a skin cell, right, to forget its age and go back to a more youthful, flexible stem cell-like state, right? In other words, they erase aging marks, right? They reset the cell's epigenetic code, and then they restore youthful function, all right? And so researchers are now experimenting with partial reprogramming, where these Yamanaka factors, they're turned on just enough to make your cells younger without wiping their identity completely. Like instead of making them go all the way back to stem cell level, youth, just partially. And so it makes them younger without, making them stem cells again. So in mice, we talked about this, reversed signs of aging. It improved organ function. It boosted regeneration, and it even improved vision in some damaged optic nerves in some of these mice that they studied whenever they were, studying Yamanaka factors. So we're still early in the but the idea is powerful, right? Instead of treating symptoms of aging, we may soon be able to rewind the biological age at the cellular level. I mean, this is a cool time to be alive, right? How expensive is it going to be? That's what I'm worried about, right? Next, there was another thing, drug repurposing for aging, right? So AI network models identified several candidates that may reduce biological aging markers by targeting inflammatory pathways and mitochondrial function. Again, one of these, I know I keep saying SS31, but one of these peptides we discussed previously, SS31, is one of those, right? And so, longevity science is evolving fast. We're not just extending life; we're working on extending the capabilities. So that's really awesome. That's really awesome. So this is it, guys. That was it. We're pushing about 36 minutes now, so I'm going to let you guys go. And if you find that today's episode resonated with you, here's what I'd like for you to do: subscribe to the Longevity Game podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and Facebook. Share this episode with someone who needs clarity on hormone replacement therapy, testosterone replacement therapy, or longevity medicine. If you're in Texas or now in Nebraska via telemedicine and want a no-cost initial consultation at my clinic, visit nextleveltrt.com. And if you want the full epigenetic starter guide we created, just DM me, hit me, comment below, epigenetic starter guide. And then check out more episodes on YouTube, on Spotify. Leave me some comments. Leave me some questions. Thanks for joining me today. Stay intentional, stay informed, and keep playing the longevity game. If you have any questions, business inquiries, you'd like to sponsor an episode, or if you'd just like to be a guest on the show, just send us an email. If you have questions or concerns about a particular topic or a particular episode, hit us up at hello@thelongevitygamepodcast.com. If you're interested in being a guest on the show, email us at beaguest@thelongevitygamepodcast.com. And if you're interested in supporting the show or sponsoring the show, hit us up at sponsors@thelongevitygamepodcast.com. Also, follow me on Instagram, Michael Ward NP, TikTok, Michael Ward NP, Facebook, Michael Ward NP, and connect with me there, guys. It's great talking to you. I had a great time. Take care.